All right, so welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
This time, you've really given us quite the stack of rule books.
Yeah.
We've got Super Meow,
Mm.
Big Time Boxing, Finspan,
Mm.
Flowers, Flutter, Mirages,
Oh, wow.
and even the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.
Sounds like we've got a little something for everyone this time.
You're definitely looking for a game night that covers all the bases,
For sure.
and you want the inside scoop on each one.
Absolutely.
So buckle up, because this deep dive is going to be a wild ride.
I'm ready. It certainly looks like we have a mix of lighthearted fun and some seriously strategic gameplay ahead of us.
Definitely.
Where should we even begin?
Well, honestly, that adorable Super Meow box is kind of calling my name.
Oh, I see.
It's a card game about
Yeah.
finding this missing superhero cat.
Okay.
And apparently the box itself, like, transforms into the market,
Oh, wow.
where you buy things in the game.
That's a great example of how game designers are, using components to really enhance the theme and the gameplay.
For sure.
But I think the real hook with Super Meow is the strategic layer beneath all the cuteness.
Okay.
So it's all about resource management, right? You need coins to buy cards, like cat food, to attract Super Meow.
Okay.
But then there's this mouse card.
Well, yeah, the one that lets you steal cards?
Exactly. You think you're so close to getting Super Meow's cape, and then bam, someone uses the mouse card to snatch it right out from under you.
That's got to be exciting.
Oh, it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
You really have to decide, play it safe or risk it all for that steal.
That's a tough choice.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing with kids who are maybe a little too good at giving you the I want to win face.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of competition, Big Time Boxing looks like it packs a real punch, but this time it's all about strategy, isn't it?
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of, frantic button mashing, Big Time Boxing is like a true boxing simulation. Think chess with jabs and uppercuts.
Okay, interesting.
You've got your ring board, player boards to track all your fighters' stats, and then a variety of cards representing all these different punches.
So what are some of the the tough choices that players face then? When they're managing their fighter's energy? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot to keep track of.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, every punch has an energy cost.
Right.
And you've only got so much to spend each round, So do you go for a big knockout punch early on and then risk being totally exhausted later?
Right.
Or do you play defensively, conserve your energy, wait for just the right moment? And then, of course, there's the risk of taking damage, which can really affect your fighter's performance later in the fight.
Yeah, for sure. What about, they mentioned these special features, like things like escape the ropes and judge points +1.
Yeah.
What do those add to the mix?
Those are what bring in those unpredictable elements that you get in a real boxing match.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a lucky break. Sometimes the judges just, favor your opponent a bit.
Right.
These cards can really swing the momentum. And then experienced players can even use these attribute cards to actually, customize their fighters.
Oh, cool.
Adds another layer of strategy there.
Okay.
But then there's also a thinky game variant for folks who prefer a less variable experience.
Something for everyone.
Exactly.
So much for boxing fans, whether they want a deep simulation or a more faster paced game. But now for something completely different.
Okay.
Finspan.
Yeah.
Okay. Fish and finance.
Not quite.
Right.
Finspan is a solo board game.
Okay.
And it's all about strategically placing these different types of fish in your ocean to score points.
So it's like a puzzle game with an aquatic theme.
You got it.
I like that. What about this Natoma thing I see mentioned?
Oh, right.
Is that like playing against a computer or something?
Exactly. Think of the Natoma as a built-in rival.
Yeah, okay.
Like a chess AI. It's got its own set of rules and actions, so you're not just playing against, a static set of conditions.
Right.
It really presents a challenge.
Wait, so this solo game
Yeah.
has a built-in opponent that acts independently?
It does.
That's really neat. So it makes it feel less like you're playing by yourself.
Precisely. It really injects a level of dynamism and unpredictability that you just, might not expect from a solo game.
Right.
You're constantly adapting your strategy based on the Natoma's moves.
Okay, I like that.
Just like you would with a human opponent.
So how do you actually score points?
Right.
Is it just about, collecting the most fish?
It's a little more nuanced than that.
Right.
So each type of fish scores differently, right?
Good.
Young, schools, eggs, and then there are these achievements that you can unlock.
Oh, cool.
Based on specific combinations or actions.
So you're not just brute force fish gathering.
Yeah, no.
It's about, like, finesse.
Exactly. Finesse and planning.
Okay.
And then there's this whole other thing called ravel mode.
Okay, ravel mode.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
So it adds this whole new scoring element that triggers at the end of each week in the game.
Okay.
And it makes the placement of your fish even more important.
Oh, interesting.
Because it can score you bonus points or, hinder your progress.
So it's like the game throws you a curveball just when you think you've got it all figured out.
Exactly.
Okay, so Finspan is, for those who like a good brain teaser, even when they're playing solo, but for something a little more visually appealing.
Okay.
How about Flowers?
Oh.
This one just looks gorgeous.
It's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
And in Flowers, you're placing these cards to create these fields of flowers.
Okay.
But it's not just about making these pretty patterns.
Right.
There are all these rules about how those cards can be placed.
Okay, like what?
Well, they're based on the card's color and its value.
So there's a real puzzle element to it, too.
Oh, for sure.
What kind of challenges do players face?
Well, to score points, you have to create these fields of at least 5 cards of the same color.
Okay.
But, and here's the catch,
Oh.
each card's value has to be part of a valid group.
Give me an example.
Sure. So, let's say all the 3 cards, no matter what their color,
Right.
they need to be in groups of 3.
Okay.
So you might have this beautiful field of, I don't know, like blue flowers.
Yeah.
But if one of those blue cards is a 3, and it's not grouped correctly,
You lose points.
you lose points, yeah.
So it's a game of balance then.
Yes.
You're trying to make these pretty arrangements,
Right.
Yeah.
but you also have to follow all the rules.
Exactly.
What are those butterfly cards?
Oh, they're lovely.
They look so whimsical.
They add a nice touch,
Yeah.
but they're not just decoration.
Okay, so what do they do?
They can score you bonus points
Okay.
if they're next to cards of their matching color.
Okay.
So you might sacrifice a perfect color match just to place a butterfly really strategically
Oh, interesting.
and rack up those extra points.
The decision you have to make.
Exactly.
Okay, and it's got a solo mode
It does.
and a summer variant.
Yeah, it's a very versatile game.
Flowers is going on the list to try, that's for
I
sure.
think you'd enjoy it.
Speaking of strategic thinking,
Yeah.
if you're ready for a bigger challenge, how about Mirages? This one takes us from, whimsical meadows
Right.
to historical battlefields.
Oh, wow.
World War II specifically.
Intense.
Yeah. Mirages is a war game, and it focuses on these battles from the North African campaign.
Okay.
And we're talking like hex-based maps with all these detailed terrain features. Trails, ridges, wadis, they all influence how units move and fight.
Sounds very in-depth.
It's not just about moving tanks around.
Right.
It really delves into the nuances of historical warfare.
I'm impressed.
So what sets Mirages apart from other war games?
You know what really strikes me is the attention to detail.
Okay.
So Mirages incorporates all these very specific rules for different terrain features, retreats, reinforcements, even unit surrender.
Wow.
It really emphasizes the differences in doctrine and equipment between the Commonwealth and Axis forces.
Give me an example.
Well, sure. So like the stacking limits,
Okay.
how many units can occupy a single hex?
Right.
Those reflect the historical limitations.
Interesting.
Yeah, they really did their research.
It sounds really immersive.
It is.
But is it accessible for someone who's maybe not a hardcore war gamer?
It does have depth.
Sure.
But the rule book is very well written.
Okay.
And it provides a lot of clear examples. Plus, it includes 4 different scenarios.
Oh, wow.
With varying game duration and complexity. So you could start with a smaller engagement, and gradually work your way up.
Right.
To those larger, more challenging battles.
All right. So from flower ranging to North African warfare.
Okay.
This deep dive is living up to its name. Now let's shift gears one more time.
Okay.
And journey to Middle-earth
All right.
with the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.
Oh, that one looks fun.
This one takes the classic trick-taking format, right? And just infuses it with the spirit of Tolkien's story. But instead of competing against each other,
Yeah.
players are working together
Oh, cool.
to complete these goals.
I like that.
based on the characters in the story.
So you're like part of the fellowship facing these challenges together.
Oh, exactly.
I like it. What are some of the like unique mechanics that bring that cooperative element to life?
Well, each player has a character
That-
with unique abilities and goals.
Mm-hmm.
And you might need to win tricks
Right.
with specific suits or card values
Okay.
to like fulfill your character's
Yeah,
destiny.
right.
And then, of course, there's the One Ring.
Ooh, the One Ring.
I bet that adds a pretty interesting twist.
I would imagine. So how does it work?
Well, the One Ring is a special card,
Okay.
and it kind of rotates among the players, and whoever holds it has to follow these specific rules
Right.
and
Okay.
restrictions.
So it's not just a powerful card you want to hold on to.
Right,
That's
exactly.
interesting.
It represents that burden,
Right.
and the temptation of the ring,
Mm-hmm.
and it can influence how the game plays out.
It's a really smart way to tie the mechanics back to the narrative.
It is, and it's organized into chapters too,
Oh, like the book.
just like the book, with increasing difficulty.
Oh, wow. That's neat.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that players might face as they're progressing?
Well, each chapter introduces new characters, right? New
Yeah.
rules. And these threat cards,
What are threat cards?
they represent those forces that are working against the Fellowship,
Okay.
like orcs, Nazgul, that growing influence of Sauron.
Right.
And they can, disrupt your plans, make things harder.
So it's like the game is throwing those obstacles in your path,
Exactly.
just like in the story.
Just like the Fellowship faced, yeah.
And then there are also gifts
Oh, right.
to help.
Yeah, those represent the help and support that the Fellowship received along the way.
Mm-hmm.
They can be powerful tools,
Okay.
but they're limited.
Right.
You have to use them strategically.
So you've got those threats and those gifts. It's all about finding that balance, right?
It is.
Managing the threats,
Yeah.
maximizing those benefits.
And the players really have to work together,
yeah.
communicate, support each other.
Sounds like a really great cooperative experience.
Yes,
Captures that spirit of Tolkien's story.
it really does.
But we can't forget about our feline superhero friend.
Oh, you're right. Super Meow is waiting.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Super Meow deserves a proper deep dive, and we've got so much more to discuss about all these games.
Yeah, we do.
It looks like we have a full plate for this deep dive.
Definitely.
Maybe we should take a quick breather before we jump back into this world of games.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Ready to dive back into this incredible stack of games?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still thinking about Super Meow
Yeah.
and that mouse card. It just seems like such a simple mechanic,
Right.
but it really adds so much tension.
It's a perfect example of how, how just one little element can completely change the feel of a game?
For sure.
You go from focusing on your own strategy to suddenly,
Yeah.
worrying about what your opponents are doing.
Right.
It keeps everyone on their toes.
It does. Speaking of strategic thinking, I'm really curious to hear more about the different ways to play big-time boxing.
Okay.
You mentioned there's a thinky game variant.
Right.
What's that all about?
So the base game, it has a fair amount of randomness built in.
Sure.
You've got the dice rolls,
Right.
card draws, determining those punches.
Yeah.
The thinky game streamlines all that.
Okay.
Makes it more about,
Yeah.
pure strategy and planning.
So it appeals to those players who want a more predictable, controlled experience.
Exactly. Like, it's like the difference between poker and chess.
Okay.
They both take skill,
Mhm.
but one relies more on, on chance
Right.
than
Okay.
the other.
And then there were those attribute cards.
Oh, yeah. For those more experienced players.
Right. What do those do again?
So those let players actually, customize their fighters.
Okay.
Add in some unique strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
So maybe, your fighter has this powerful jab, but they're really susceptible to body blows. Or
Sure.
maybe they're, a master of defense, but they just lack that knockout power.
So it's almost like you're creating like a boxer with a distinct personality and fighting style.
It is.
That's cool.
Yeah, it adds a lot of depth
Okay.
and replayability.
Makes me wonder, are there specific strategies that work better with certain attribute combinations?
I bet there are. It would be really interesting to kind of see how people develop those.
Yeah,
Their own unique boxing styles based on the cards they choose.
for sure. For sure. Speaking of unique styles,
Yeah.
let's talk about Finspan again.
All right, Finspan.
That solo game.
Yep.
With the built-in opponent.
Right.
I'm still kind of amazed by that Natoma system.
Oh, no, it's really innovative.
What are some of the things that make it so challenging and engaging as an opponent?
Well, the first thing is that it doesn't necessarily follow the same rules as a human player. It has its own internal logic and goals, so you can't just, predict its moves
Right.
based on what you would do.
So it's not just a matter of memorizing a pattern or figuring out a set strategy.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Keeps you guessing, forces you to adapt.
And to make things even more interesting, you said it has different difficulty levels.
It does.
Wow, okay.
So you can start off easy, and then, as you get better, you can ramp up the challenge.
I love that. Even for a solo game, built-in difficulty levels, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You also mentioned Finspan has a Ravel mode.
Right, Ravel mode.
What does that add to the gameplay?
So Ravel mode is it's almost like this bonus scoring element that kicks in at the end of each week in the game.
Okay.
And it forces you to think long term. You
Yeah.
have to think about how your actions are going to affect you later on.
Interesting.
So like that school of fish that you were just about to grab might not be so appealing if it's going to cost you points in Ravel mode.
It's almost like the Natoma isn't the only opponent you're facing.
Right.
You're also battering against the game itself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
It adds that extra layer of strategic depth that solo game enthusiasts really love.
Okay. There's another game in this stack that reminds me of that.
Oh, yeah.
That Finspan feeling. That you're not just playing against other players, but you're also trying to outsmart the game itself.
What do you think of?
Flowers.
Yes.
With those rules about matching the numerical values of the cards.
Right. You're trying to find that balance between making these visually appealing fields of flowers and making sure that you're following all the rules to maximize your points.
Right.
Sometimes you have to make those tough decisions,
Yeah.
Sacrifice a pretty arrangement just to make sure that a card is in a legal group.
It's like the game is testing you to see if you can find those elegant solutions that satisfy, both the visual goals and the strategic goal.
And then you've got those butterfly cards, which add another layer to the challenge.
Yeah.
Do you go for that big bonus by placing a butterfly strategically, even if it messes up your color scheme?
Right.
Or do you focus on this perfect fields of flowers, even if it means you miss out on some extra points?
It's those kinds of dilemmas that make a game so captivating.
They do.
Now, let's switch gears again.
Okay.
I'm eager to hear more about these war games.
Right. Back to Mirages.
Yes, Mirages.
It's all about, immersing yourself in the details of that North African campaign.
It even simulates the challenges of desert warfare, right?
It does.
How does it do that?
Well, certain terrain features, like wadis, those dry riverbeds, they really affect movement in combat. They can provide cover for units, but they can also become real choke points.
Interesting.
And then, you've got the whole issue of supply lines.
Oh, right. Supply lines are crucial.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the desert,
Yeah.
where resources are so scarce.
So how does Mirages handle that?
Well, units have this limited range of movement,
Okay.
right? And they need to stay connected to their supply sources. So if a unit gets cut off, they become vulnerable,
right,
less effective.
It really makes you think about the logistics.
It does.
It's amazing how a game can capture those complexities.
I know, it's fascinating.
And make it part of how you actually play. Makes you appreciate what those commanders had to deal with.
For sure.
And the game doesn't shy away from other historical details either.
Oh, right.
You mentioned that Commonwealth and Axis forces have different rules for retreats.
They do, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it goes back to the different doctrines and strategies they used.
Okay.
So the Commonwealth forces, they were often more mobile and flexible.
Right.
Able to, to disengage and withdraw easier. Whereas the Axis forces, they relied on more rigid defensive tactics.
Interesting. So those retreat rules aren't just arbitrary.
No.
They're actually based on,
on history.
On the historical realities. So Mirages goes beyond just moving pieces.
Oh, yeah.
On a board.
Definitely.
It's about, understanding that historical context.
Right.
And applying it to your strategy.
It is.
Speaking of strategy.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.
Oh, right.
I'm especially intrigued by how it handles the One Ring.
Yeah, me too.
It's such an iconic symbol of, power and temptation.
Right.
I'm curious to see how that works in the game.
So the One Ring is this special card that rotates between the players. And whoever's holding it, do they have to follow certain rules, restrictions?
So it's not just like a powerful card that you want to keep.
No, it comes with a burden.
It does, yeah.
It represents the burden of carrying the ring, that constant temptation to use its power.
And the risk of succumbing.
Exactly.
That's a really cool way to tie it back to the story.
It is. It's very clever.
What about those, you mentioned the threat cards and gifts earlier. How do those add to the gameplay?
So they add a level of uncertainty and challenge to each chapter. Threat cards are those forces working against the Fellowship, right? Orcs, Nazgul, Sauron's influence. They can mess up your plans, make it harder to achieve your goals.
So it's like the game is throwing those obstacles in your path.
Exactly.
Just like in this story. What about the gifts then?
Gifts, those represent the help.
And support that the Fellowship received, on their journey.
Right.
So they can be powerful tools. But they're limited. You have to use them carefully.
So it's like the game is giving you those glimpses of hope.
Right.
But you have to be really smart about how you use them.
You do.
It's all about that balance again, right?
It is, yeah.
Managing those threats, but maximizing the benefits of the gifts.
And the players have to work together, communicate, support each other.
It sounds like a really great cooperative experience.
It is one that really captures the spirit of Tolkien's story.
It does. Speaking of immersive experiences, shall we revisit the world of feline superheroes?
Let's go back to Super Meow.
Super Meow. All right. All right. So back to Super Meow.
Super Meow. Okay.
We were talking about how that mouse card.
Yeah.
Really changes things.
It does. It adds that element of risk versus reward, right?
Do you play it safe, build up your hand?
Yeah.
Or do you go for it, try and steal a card?
Especially when you're close to winning.
Oh, absolutely. That's when it gets really tough.
I mean, the designers knew what they were doing.
They did. They created those nail-biting moments.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what elevates a game, From just fun to truly engaging, makes you think, makes you sweat a little.
Yeah.
Keeps you coming back for more.
Speaking of coming back for more.
Yeah.
I'm curious about replayability. Which of these games do you think offer the most variety?
Good question.
For, when you play them multiple times?
Well, I think a lot of them have those built-in things to make sure that each time you play, it's a little different.
Yeah, give me an example.
Okay, so Big Time Boxing, for example, has those attribute cards, right?
Right.
To customize the fighters.
So many combinations.
A ton.
Yeah.
And different strategies.
And different variants, too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the Thinky game.
Exactly. So you can tailor it to how much randomness you want.
Okay, what about solo games? Like Finspan.
Yeah, Finspan. So you might be surprised.
Okay.
But solo games can have a lot of replay value.
Really?
Yeah. So Finspan, you've got the Naroma.
Right, that AI opponent.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can change the difficulty.
Okay.
So it's always a challenge.
Keeps things fresh.
And then you've got Ravel mode.
Right.
That throws in a whole different way to score.
So you're not just playing the same game over and over.
No, you have to adapt.
Okay.
Come up with new strategies.
Even simpler games.
Yeah.
Like Flowers, Flutter.
Yeah, those have a surprising amount of depth.
They do.
Flowers. It's like a puzzle. Yeah. So many ways to solve it.
And those butterflies.
Oh, yeah, the butterflies.
Trust another layer.
Decision.
Flutter.
Yeah.
You've got to match those petals.
It's a spatial game, really. You're always looking at the board, trying to figure out where to put things.
And then you've got mirages.
Oh, mirages, yeah.
Multiple scenarios, different lengths.
Historically accurate, too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really gives you a feel for those battles.
Yeah, for the history.
And all the details. It's incredible.
It really is.
And then, of course, you've got Fellowship of the Ring with the One Ring, those chapters.
Makes you feel like you're in the story.
It does. It's a different journey.
Each time you play.
Each time, yeah.
It's amazing looking at all these games.
It is, isn't it?
It's incredible how they all offer something unique. Not just the themes, but the way you play them.
It really shows you how creative the board game industry is.
It does. There's a game out there for everyone.
No matter what you're into.
Yeah, this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's really opened my eyes
I'm glad.
to all the possibilities.
So many great games out there.
I feel inspired
Okay.
to get some friends together.
Yeah.
And try some of these out.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, bringing people together.
Exactly. Spark some conversation.
Yeah.
Create those shared experiences.
Who knows? Maybe we'll discover a new favorite.
You never know.
I want to thank you for
The pleasure was mine.
for taking this deep dive with me.
I always enjoy it.
It's been great.
It has. And to our listener out there,
Yeah.
happy gaming. We hope this inspired you to go on some gaming adventures of your own.
And if you find a game you love, share it with us.
Let us know.
We always want to hear.
On social media, we're always there.
All right. That's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.